And on this week's edition of Ford News, we talk about the huge rallies that Kamala and Tim Walz are having, but is anyone covering them? Also, we're going to have to deal with fake electors again. And are we really going to question Tim Walz's military service? Yeah, I guess we have to deal with that too. That and more coming your way right now here on Ford News. He's Johnathan Ford. Follow him on X at FordJohnathan5. I'm Brian London. Follow me at MiamiRadioBeast. We got so much to get to, Jonathan. The enthusiasm keeps bubbling and bubbling behind Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. The only thing I'm worried about is she's doing these huge rallies. Thousands of people are there. No, it's not AI. No, it's not fake people out there that they're inserting via computer into these videos. No, huge rallies. But the thing is, a lot of the mainstream media not really covering it, and instead, let's put a slightly not so coherent Donald Trump on TV for an hour, holding some press conference from Mar-a-Lago where he lies over 160 times. I don't understand.
Well, what they're doing is they're making the same mistake they did in 2016 as far as their practices as networks and as journalists is they're attempting to normalize his lies and his behaviors when they have a perfect opportunity right now with VP Harris with enthusiasm, energy, crowd size, donations. She has all this going for her right now, but yet they refuse to give her the right amount of airtime or the amount of airtime that she deserves. And that's why we have to discuss this today. It's because we have to understand one thing is that we can do this and we can get her message out and we can get her speeches out without the mainstream media by simply endorsing other YouTube channels, our YouTube channel, Ford News One, or even Midas Touch, who had 649,000 online streams during the last debate. And doing the calculations, it's well over 3 million total streams. But we have to not rely on mainstream media to be fair and balanced when it comes to this election. And the reason why we have to get that out, it's because we do have voters on the left and we have voters on the right that's made up their mind, but we have to get it out for VP Harris and for Tim Walz, for those independent and undecided voters, and also to give pushback to the lies. And that's why I have repeatedly said on Ford News X account that we will not give Donald Trump a platform to spread his lies and propaganda. And I will continue to do that whether he's elected or not. He will not have a home on our platform.
Yeah, no. So there's two kind of teams of thought processes on Donald Trump, right? On one side, it's, well, don't platform him, don't give him the opportunity
Mhm.
to spread his misinformation. And on the other side of things, it's, oh no, put him out there 24/7 and let people see how bat bleep crazy he is. I guess I know what side you come down on.
Yeah, see, we've done that. Like, I don't understand this thought process from some of these X accounts, and they can post whatever they want on their platform. I respect a lot of them. I want to make that very, very clear. But they're making the same mistake today as they did in 2016, or if they didn't start 2016, whenever their platform started taking shape and normalizing this. People already know on the left who Donald Trump is. People already know on the right who Donald Trump is. They just ignore the fact that he is a liar, a conspiracy theorist. Uh, but what you're doing when you're putting this out is you're normalizing this for some people and myself who, Brian, you say doesn't sleep enough, but when I'm up throughout the whole night debating on TikTok, people are taking these words for real. Like some of these undecided voters, and there's a few that would say, no, we know he's full of crap and it's lies. but we're still waiting on policy from VP Harris, which is fine. But some of them literally believe this. Like, they believe sincerely of what he's saying. And I just personally believe, Brian, that it's because of people giving Donald Trump a platform. And in my opinion, it needs to stop.
So I'm split on this, right? Because I'm in an awkward position, well, in life, but also in this situation, because a lot of my X followers follow me and have been for a long time, since X started, since it started as Twitter, for sports stuff, right? Because that was my career before this. And a lot of those people don't want me talking politics at all on X, but too bad for them. But, you know, a ton of them could be Republican, could be MAGA, they could come from all walks of life. The other, my newer followers, a lot of them are progressives, and, you know, obviously you've helped me gain a lot of followers, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate everyone that's decided to follow me at Miami Radio Beast. But they're progressive, and they obviously they understand that what Donald Trump is spewing out there is a bunch of lies. But I'm thinking about my other audience, saying, you know what? Maybe they don't really know. Maybe they don't get this angle anywhere else. Maybe all they do is watch Fox News. Maybe all they do is watch OAN or Newsmax. And I feel like, hey, if I can get through to a couple of them so they get to see the truth, then that's kind of the way I feel about it. As disgusting as I feel platforming Donald Trump, I kind of have to think about who is watching, who is listening, who is viewing what I'm putting out there.
So, I get that, but I would think the first 4 liabilities of fraud would have been enough. I would have thought the first liability for sexual abuse would have been enough. I would have thought that 34 felony charges under 175.10 and 175.04 New York Penal Code, falsifying business documents with intent to cover up a federal crime, would have been enough. I would have thought making fun of the handicap would have been enough. I would have thought telling women that they're bleeding from you know where would have been enough. But it's not, because people are just continuously on his side making excuses for his behaviors. And that's exactly what people are doing now. Their main thing is, well, his policies were great. Well, he did some good things with the economy. Well, he did some great things with immigration. But the simple fact is a lot of those are not controlled by the president of the United States. And the one thing we have to get back to prior to 2015 is that the offices of the presidency, first and foremost, stood for decency and stood as a world leader of a beacon of hope that spoke with intelligence and elegance and hope and desires to prosper for all Americans, and not just those on the right or those on the left, but for everybody. And this man, Donald Trump, continues to attack anybody that is not loyal to him. That's not a presidency. That's not a leader. That is a dictator, and that is somebody that's a threat to our democracy.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I need to discuss how Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC has handled this. And this all happened,
Phenomenal.
this week where we had, on one hand we had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz addressing the UAW, the union, and then we had, on the other hand, Donald Trump giving a lunatic press conference from Mar-a-Lago, and MSNBC carried Donald Trump, and again, that goes back to what happened in 2015 and 2016, platforming the guy with the crazy. And Lawrence O'Donnell ripped his own network at 10 o'clock, saying, what are we doing? And 2, said, you know what, if you're going to carry it, then fact check it in real time. We all have big, wide TVs. Throw up a scroll and fact check this thing in real time so that people see, because he's right? Like, when the talking heads come on an hour later to fact check the press conference, it's too late. People's attention span's already gone. You need to fact check it in real time. Now, the issue that I have, and this is what I'm trying to deal with, is, listen, I'm classically trained in journalism. I went to school for this, right? And back in my day, there was an equal time rule where networks had to give equal time to both candidates. And I don't even know. I'd have to go back and look to see if that even applies to cable services or streaming platforms or any of that. I don't think it does, but I think for the good of the country, I think it's a good idea to kind of, hey, if we're gonna play, one candidate, we got to play the other candidate. I think that's kind of a good idea. Now, I sure as hell know, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that Fox News is not carrying Kamala and Tim Walz live for an hour. I'm guessing that's not the case. So why the hell is MSNBC or CNN or any kind of network out there that isn't crazy? Why are they carrying Trump's full press conference? It makes no sense. Sure, you want to play some highlights and show people the crazy. Okay, that's fine, no problem. I'm fine with that. The news items, whatever it is. I mean, whether we like it or not, Johnathan, he is a candidate to be the president of the United States. I know that we're not in normal times, but there has to be some normalcy in the coverage. Sure, play some clips, but you better well show us the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz stuff too. Like, don't just throw that out there.
Yeah, and that's my exact point. Like, I don't mind that MSNBC or the mainstream media or CNN, any of those in that category are showing his actual press conference that he rambled for an hour and a half plus, and basically made no coherent policy available to the American people. He lied an astonishing 135 times, as was pointed out by other journalists, that he basically lied every single sentence.
Yeah.
What I have a problem with, and what you just pointed out, is that nobody's pointing it out right then. Nobody's calling him out right then. And when they do, they're automatically attacked. Like, you can go back to uh NABJ, where he was there and some tough questions are asked and he automatically attacked somebody. So that's where my problem is that they're so fearful of giving him any pushback or fact checking live that it's downright journalistic malpractice. And what I would like to see is also, even on the Harris side, with Walz, is the same airtime, but it's drastically different. Like, it's hours versus minutes of airtime. And same thing with Harris and Walz, is if they lie or they say misinformation or something that's misleading, they need to be called out too.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's on both sides. But there is no fairness right now. And I believe that fairness doctrine you're talking about, I think
Well, no,
expired in 2001.
The fairness doctrine is no longer, but
Yes.
equal time is still around, but I think it only applies to over the air networks, not necessarily to cable. I really should know
Okay.
that. I'm sorry I'm letting everyone down. I do have a master's. I don't know what's happening with my brain after, COVID 2 times and also just being ADHD. I have no idea what's upstairs inside there. But Johnathan, one thing I do want to talk about though is, props to, or thank goodness for YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Reels and Facebook, because it is getting out there. What you told me before we started, there's some crazy number of people just watched this Kamala Tim Walz rally. Was it
3
yesterday?
million.
When we were recording this
Mhm.
on Sunday on YouTube. What, like, some ridiculous number of people saw their rally.
If
YouTube
you're
is, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're talking about live streaming the last rally, it was 3 million people.
Holy biscuit. 3
Yeah,
million people.
so that's 3 million people that the mainstream media missed out, that was eager to listen to the rally in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Thomas Mack Center, I believe it's called.
Yep, yep.
Um, So, and there was estimated anywhere between 12 and 15,000 people that were in there, because the reports are, and we can go into this, that the Las Vegas police, law enforcement,
Yeah.
asked the Harris campaign to shut the doors because there was over 4,000 people outside that were starting to show symptoms of heat exhaustion and dehydration. But that's 3 million people. And that just shows the power that you all have as listeners that can make podcasts like this one, or YouTube channels like ours, be great in the future and giving you information that you are requesting. Because I will tell you, on X, I am listening, reading everything that you guys are saying, and I'm also reading and listening even what the right is saying, because otherwise I wouldn't go to TikTok and put myself through 3 or 4 hours of debating MAGA every single day. So
You and
I'm
Matt,
also
wait, wait,
listening
wait,
to
wait,
them.
wait. You and Matt are gluttons for punishment because you sit there and debate MAGA for 3 or 4 hours a night. Matt is texting me 78 times a day. Oh, I'm in this Twitter space. I'm in this Twitter space with MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. I don't know how you guys do it. Like, I see a couple of X posts. First of all, I'm still on Facebook and I get it there every day. Like, it triggers me. I want to put my head through a window. You guys are doing it for hours upon a day. I mean, thank you for the Oppo research that you provide to the whole thing, but I don't know how you do it.
Well, it's because I've always stood for the what's truthful, and giving and relaying that information to whoever's willing to listen. And if I can, in a 3 or 4 hour span, change 2 votes, then that's two people that I've changed just through talking, just like we are right now. I'm very calm and relaxed when I do it, just because you have to know the information that you are trying to relay to them, and not talk down to them. Because at the end of the day, we're all Americans. Like, I don't agree with them politically. And I think the far right extremists are domestic terrorists. But at the end of the day, we're still all Americans. And I want them to have the same information that I have, um, that I've researched. I want them to have that information so they can possibly carry that on to the next person as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a good philosophy. Better you than me, though. All right, we're gonna take a break. I can't believe that we're gonna have to talk about fake electors again, but it's something we have to get into. It could impact this election once again. Are they going to try to have? Is there going to be another attempted coup? I don't know. We have to get into all of this. We will do that on the other side. You're listening and watching Ford News. Welcome back to Ford News. He is Johnathan Ford. Follow him on X at FordJohnathan5. I'm Brian London. Follow me at MiamiRadioBeast. Follow the show at Ford News Podcast. Go find us wherever you get your social media, your information, your news, your videos, your audio. Subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening to this right now, hit the subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit the little bell, be notified when new content comes down, and make sure you interact with us on YouTube. Tell Johnathan how good his hair looks. Do that. And then also, we've TikTok is growing, Instagram is getting there, so go find us wherever you get your content. Johnathan, we got to dig into the situation with the fake electors out in Arizona, and we'll talk about how it may impact the 2024 election in a second. But there's a lot going on out there, and people I don't think realize. We were talking about this during the break. How close they were to delivering fake electors to the Senate parliamentarian. And we're lucky. There's still some good people out there.
Yeah, and the reason why I keep mentioning it's because people that I speak with, they're always like, "Well, there's there's people put in place, there's position, there's lifelong politicians, and there's people in the Department of Justice that will always there to kind of keep uh, the balance of power in check for anybody." But with the fake electors, like, they literally uh, brought up this scheme, got people behind the scheme, in some cases recorded the signing of these fake electors. Some of the fake electors who have reached plea agreements with prosecution, has said that they knew it was illegal, but it was at the direction of Donald Trump, and how this was delivered by hand to the Senate to be delivered to Vice President Pence at the time to certify these fake electors in replace of the actual electors that was already certified from that state. And it scares me to think that all we were was just a few people or a few loyalists to Donald Trump that could have made that possible. And also the fear that that was just a trial run for what could be happening in 2000 after 2024 election if elected, to where we could see the end of the peaceful transfer of power after that. And people may say, Johnathan, you're talking harsh, there's no way. But just look at the evidence and just look at how close we actually came from that, with the January 6th insurrection, to the coup attempt, to the challenging of the election, to asking for more votes out of Georgia. That's how close we were. And it just scares me that if people don't start doing this research and stopping this madness, we could be in trouble if we do not elect VP Harris and Tim Walz. And that's why myself, I will in the next few weeks actually start hitting the canvas on the streets here in where I live, and start working for Harris voluntarily, to make sure that that message gets out.
Yeah, I too signed up. I talked to the Florida office for Vice President Harris and Tim Walz, and got some information and signed up to do some phone banking for him this week. So yeah, we gotta do our
Thank
part. We
you.
gotta get the message out there, no doubt about it. Oh, by the way, if there's any fellow Floridians that want that information, how they can get involved, just slide into my DMs on X, and I will send you all the pertinent information. So there's a legal case out there in Arizona in regards to the fake electors and all of this,
Mhm.
and we thought that charges might be dropped, and the grand jury didn't have enough to indict anyone yet. But we had a bit of a turn recently, where former Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis has decided to maybe sing a bit of a different song, Johnathan. She's, I believe, entered into a cooperation agreement with the prosecution. And so that's what looks like is on the cusp of happening. And I know we've started to hear some rumbles that with the information she has, if she gives that to the prosecution, that charges may be filed in Arizona against Donald Trump.
Yeah, and we'll put the links, of course, in the below this video when it's downloaded tomorrow morning. Um, but yeah, so what the information that I have and what I've read is that the prosecutors out of Arizona had actually told the grand jury not to come back with an indictment on Donald Trump with the fake electors, because they didn't believe that they were ready or had an amount of evidence sufficient enough to indict a former sitting president. But now we have Jenna Ellis, who has now entered an agreement to help the prosecutors going forward in this case. And one former prosecutor had spoke to Raw Story, and it basically told them that with this information, he now sees a future indictment of Donald Trump out of Arizona very well possible. And we all know that Donald Trump is facing these same type of charges in Georgia right now for the same type of fake electoral scheme. So it's not like something that was just brought up. And there's other states that have also investigated the fake electoral scheme, Michigan being one of them, of course, Georgia, Arizona. There was a little investigation in Pennsylvania. So it was pretty much every battleground state that they were trying to produce these fake electors to overturn the 2020 election.
And here's what bothers me, or what has me concerned, I should say,
Sure.
is from the absolute local level on up. Republicans have tried to staff those offices with MAGA-friendly people so that your local election representatives, your local, all the people that oversee elections and have everything to do with the whole process are MAGA-friendly. Now, obviously in some states it's been harder than others, but you worry about this sort of situation. I give props, Jonathan. If people aren't following, you should be following Mark Elias. You can follow him on X at Mark E Elias, and his entire Elias Law Group. Their entire existence is dedicated towards making sure that this stuff doesn't happen. That they're already in advance making sure that they're following the paper trails and all this stuff to make sure we don't run into fake electors again. But I'm worried it's going to happen again, that there's going to be there might be another, attempted coup because, if hopefully when Kamala Harris and Tim Walz win the election, there's going to be some really angry folks. They're going to try to do whatever they possibly can to win this election. And remember, Donald Trump told them, hey, you don't even need to vote. Why do you think he did that? Well, because he thinks he's got other ways and means to take office. And that scares me.
Well, and that's why voting locally in your local elections are probably not probably, let me retract that, are more important than actually voting for president or senate, because that's where actual real change starts to happen, and that's where a real impact on people actually take place, is in your local government, state government elections. And that's why I've repeatedly, even on X, said you vote down the ticket, vote blue, if you want to stop this type of madness. And that's what we're going to have to do in the 2024 election, because you're right, like nothing is going to stop this if you put in consideration Project 2025, Agenda 47. If you put all of that into place of what they're telling us they're going to put in loyalists. Like, this isn't a secret. Like, they're literally telling us that they're going to fire 50,000 federal employees that are not loyalists to the MAGA movement. And I don't know how much clearer that has to be for people. And sure, people are going to say Project 2025 is a wish list. It's never been endorsed by Donald Trump. And that's a lie. He has repeatedly given campaign speeches for the Heritage Foundation. 81% of the Project 2025 has been written by people that have served in his administration or campaign. So we have to be very clear here that when we're making a decision on voting in 2024, what America do you want? Do you want a peaceful transfer of power, or do you want a man who has stood up, like Brian said, and stated that this could be your last election if you vote for me, that I am going to fix it? Now, some people may spin off and say this is what he meant, he was going to fix, but he specifically said you wouldn't have to vote again.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. And you as much as he lies, sometimes you have to take him at his word. So be afraid, be very afraid, be vigilant, and keep your eyes open. There's no doubt about it. Jonathan,
and stop taking his
ahead.
shit for a joke. Like, I'm tired of people talking about that he was just joking, when more times than none, his jokes are exactly what he's meaning. Like, this guy is not joking around. He is being 100% serious when he tells you this stuff. Like, and Brian, that's nothing to attack you on, but
right.
I've heard this like 1,000 times where he was just joking. But then it turns out later that he wasn't joking, that he's actually doing it. Or there was times where he said, well, this is what somebody else did, when in fact it's him that was doing it. Like, stop allowing him to get away with just being a joke. It's not a joke.
Jonathan, Donald Trump does not have a sense of humor. He does not know how to joke. He doesn't even know how to laugh at a joke. Okay? That's why he's so jealous of Kamala when she laughs, because he doesn't know how to do it. So yeah, He ain't making a joke. The stuff that he spills out of his trap, it's all for reals. So you best believe that he means what he says. In any event, we are going to take a break. On the other side, I can't believe we're going to have to do this, but yeah, it's our favorite segment of the week. It is our Ford fact check. I can't believe we're going to have to fact check what we're going to fact check, but we're going to get our Ford fact check in. That more comes your way on the other side here on Ford News. Welcome back to Ford News. He is Johnathan Ford. Follow him on X at FordJohnathan5. I'm Brian London. Follow me at MiamiRadioBeast. And it's time for our favorite segment of the week. It's time for the Ford Fact Check. Johnathan, I hate that we're doing this, but yep, we have to fact check the military record of one Governor Tim Walz. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so there's been quite a few misleading claims regarding Governor Walz's military service. And first and foremost, let's just make sure that we support our military. And even when a certain individual, J.D. Vance, had made some of these claims that were false, we also support his military service as well, because it takes a certain person to have the bravery and the dedication far beyond what I have, to serve in the military. But we're going to go ahead and get right into some of the claims. And if you see me looking down, it's because I want to make sure that I get this correct.
Yeah.
And I don't want to mislead anybody with the information. But this is actually according to fact-checking site. The first claim is that Governor Walz quickly exited the military after learning he was going to be deployed, basically leaving his men out to dry. The actual truth to this claim is that Governor Walz put his paperwork in retirement before the unit received alert orders for deployment. In fact, he served 4 years after 9/11 and 2 years after the Iraq War began. He did not leave at first sign of combat. He stayed well past his 20 years, and he actually served 24 years in the service. So this notion that he retired to run away from combat is actually false. And he actually signed up to run for Congress even previous to this. So his retirement was requested months before and was actually approved because his unit was fully staffed, and him leaving would not impact the operation or the assignment that they were given to deploy out. Another one is a lie that we just want to point out is Governor Walz never made command sergeant. That is
Command Sergeant Major.
Or yes, thank you. Command Sergeant Major, thank you. CSM. So I was looking at the abbreviations and tried to make up my own, I guess, rank in the military. Hopefully none of the generals out there mind. He served as the CSM after retiring, was only reduced because he did not complete the training or professional military education to serve the rank when he retired. So to retire the rank, you must have held it for several years. Retired, this retired lieutenant colonel is actually speaking out in defense of Walz, basically stating that he did hold that, but he did not finish the training of it, and he also wasn't in the position long enough to hold it. And in fact, after he retired as a
Master Sergeant.
what we decide master sergeant. So yep, a master sergeant. So he was still one of the highest ranks that you can get inside the National Guard. But the whole fact of this is that it wasn't stolen valor. He was never pretending to be a rank that he never was, because he was. It was just that there's stipulations to hold that rank after retirement. Now, you could say, just being fact-based, that there was a few statements. One regarding the carrying weapons of war.
In a war,
And
yeah.
he said that he was in, I believe, Afghanistan or Iraq or Afghanistan.
No, he said what he said was he said, I'm gonna paraphrase, like, the weapons of war I've held in war. He didn't, specify, and then they've now come out and said, the Harrison
Correct.
Wallace campaign has come out and said that he misspoke when he said that.
Yeah, that he had never actually served in a war zone, but he had actually served in, I believe it was Italy,
Yeah, he went to Italy.
and
Yep.
other parts of the world. And let's just remember, in my opinion, and I'm not a military person, but people serve different positions that help intelligence or help the deployment or help ground forces that are trying to fight for our freedoms that aren't necessarily just in Iraq or Afghanistan. Regardless, we should honor the service of all of our military servicemen.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Listen, uh, Tim Walz obviously, served his country, served in the National Guard, made it to the highest rank you could possibly get as an NCO. And why I don't understand what we're doing. It's quite like you can't just be like, oh, we're getting orders to go overseas. I'm gonna retire now. That's not how it works. So I don't know what we're doing. Oh, and by the way, Captain Bone Spurs better never say anything about Tim Walz's military service. That's all I know. Because we honor those that serve. J.D. Vance served. Tim Walz served. Donald Trump did not serve. So I better not hear anything out of his mouth when it comes to this.
Yeah, he was definitely a draft dodger. And of course, it was money that persuaded that particular decision, and also a fake medical condition. Um, but also, we have to know that what caused this isn't like a new story that just came out with Walls. Like, this has been debunked like all the other stories years ago, repeatedly and repeatedly. Military service members have come forward and talked about what a great soldier Tim Walz was. His ranking officers or his bosses within the National Guard talked about what a great officer he was. And then we just have two particular individuals that are politically motivated come out and talk about how they left them out to dry, when that's not the case at all. And that's where I think it's very important that when you see stuff like that, you just nip it in the butt right away and make sure that people understand, even though they're not probably going to be swayed one way or the other, but at least give the information out there for others to read.
And people shouldn't be surprised because the campaign manager for the Trump Vance campaign is Chris LaCivita. And what is he famous for? The swift boating of John Kerry. He's the guy that came up with that idea. So, questioning someone's military services is right up his alley. So it's not surprising. Jonathan, before we get out of here for this week, I think we need to again talk about the enthusiasm, the excitement that the Harris Walz campaign are bringing around the country, really, to these rallies that are filling up with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And not just the people there, but the people that are watching on YouTube and online and watching the clips on TikTok. And like you and I, volunteering for the campaign, there is just a real sense um, of people trying to get to a place where we can prevent this country from going to a place that we don't want it to go.
And I think it's even it's it's even something more spectacular than even that. It's you when you watch the clips, you can see joy, you can see happiness, you can see celebration, you can see a party, you can see diversity. Like, you look at the crowd and it reflects what America is, with different cultures, different backgrounds, different lifestyles, different economic circumstances, to where nobody cares at that particular moment because they're celebrating because Harris and Waltz have given them something to believe in. And it reminds me of when I really started to get politically motivated and started to get involved of Obama. Um, but even more so as today, because Obama gave a sense of hope and praise and was elegant and spoke with compassion. But this is all that, but it's also a party. Like, people are really enjoying themselves at these rallies, and it's just nothing I've ever seen before. And what they had just announced is basically, well, on 5 rallies, there's been well over 50,000 people, and we could have never thought about that months ago, when we were having problems as a Democratic Party to fill a high school gym. And now we're filling up Glendale, Arizona, the arena there. We're filling up the Mac and Thomas Center, which is basically an arena that holds 20,000. We're
Also known
filling
as
up
the Thomas
Miller
Mack Arena. Yeah.
or Thomas Mack Arena. I call it center. I don't. And then also filling up a airplane or an airport with 15,000 people in Detroit, Michigan, and Wisconsin, out in, that is not really the bluest area, of 10,000 people spread out throughout an open field. Was just, it was remarkable to see the engagement that the Democratic Party, and on message that the Democratic Party is now.
You know, uh, Kamala and Tim have been kind of coined. The term has been joyful warriors. That they're fighting, but they're doing it with a smile on their face, and they bring positivity and good vibes. But they're also fighting, right? They're fighting for freedoms and all this other stuff. And you take that, and then you look the dichotomy between that, and then on the other side, what you're getting is just fear, and darkness. And it's such a contrast. But I think as a country, a lot of us, and most of us, I think, are ready to get that joyful warrior spirit in us. And that's why I think this campaign has come along at the right time. The other day on, I think it was on Morning Joe, they were discussing, is it the candidate that is making the moment, or is it the moment that is making the candidate? And I think it's partially both. That these two have
Mhm.
come along at the right time.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And we're seeing it in other avenues, just the donations. We're seeing it in polling data that we've started to receive, or started, to look at, because it's getting closer to the election. But let's make it clear too that vote. So go to iwillvote.com and register. Make sure you're registered to vote, and vote. Don't worry about the polling. But we're seeing polling that is significantly shifting her way, even in battleground states, that previously President Biden was down 3, 4, 5 points in some of these battleground states, to where now she's up 3 or 4%. So it's like the whole script has flipped. And you've seen Donald Trump actually cancel some events for some unknown reason. He's canceling rallies. He's canceling out speaking outside of his comfort zone. But we're definitely seeing a movement, and it's not any longer a moment. And we still have one huge night that I can't wait for. And I just want to mention this real quick. We have the Democratic National Convention that is coming up. And I cannot wait to see one particular night. And reportedly, they're going to have a night where they're basically going to honor President Biden,
Yep.
and basically honor his service. And anybody that watches this, and Brian knows as well, I'm very passionate about President Biden's service and what he's done for the country. Not only is compassion and empathy for people, but also legislative wise of what he's tried to do with it, with his administration, and that time just caught up for him. And I will bet there will not be a dry eye in that audience once this kicks off, honoring somebody that has given so much to not only the country, but also to his family and all the heartache that he has suffered throughout all the years, and still do what he does and walk in the footsteps that he walks. I Nobody cannot admire the man that he is.
Yeah, there's 1000% on that one. I look forward to that as well. All right. That'll do it for us this week here on Ford News. We appreciate all of you for watching and listening. A shout out to our double secret editor, producer, Matt, and a shout out to our special audience member today, Daisy, who was nice enough to join us, but she's down in the basement. So, we'll think about letting her upstairs when she's out of timeout. But thank you, Daisy, for joining us on the show. To all of you who listen and watch, we appreciate you. Please, please, please subscribe wherever you're listening to this. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Smash that subscribe button, as they say. Hit the like button. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the bell. Do all that stuff. Go to TikTok. Go follow us wherever you can find us. Thank you for watching and listening to Ford News.